The following is a fan-based discussion. All properties discussed are property of Toei Inc., Bandai, Saban Entertainment, and Tsuburaya Productions.
Hello, everyone!
Hello!
And welcome back to another episode of the Tokucast Reviews.
Episode number 51.
Yes, we are doing Garo Season 2, Makai Senki. It's been a very long time since we've had anything with a direct sequel to something else.
What was the last one?
Black RX. Whoops.
If there's any word that can describe Black RX in one word, it would probably be whoops.
Yeah. But yeah, we're, having the same characters this time. I realized last time that we did the first season of Garo, we did not do characterizations in that, which actually does work a little bit better for this one, because we can go almost a full character arc for some of these characters, at least for Koga and
Ray.
Karu. No, Ray not. Ray has still seasons after this. Yeah. So at least we get up to his point for right here. But yeah, Garo Makai Senki. Okay. The opening. The first one,
once again, the first one is instrumental, and I like this one more.
Yeah.
I also like the visuals for this one, with all the hands moving around and the tattoo stuff moving around. That's pretty cool. It looks really cool.
However, just like last time, we do get a second opening.
And then we get a second opening with lyrics and vocals, and it sucks.
Why? I don't know why they decided to do that again. I'm saying, the instrumental one was perfect. It's just like the Hibiki.
It was fine the way it was.
Just like the Hibiki one.
This isn't as bad as the Hibiki one.
Well, no, because it just does the same thing.
It does the same thing, but I still think Hibiki, what happened with that is worse.
Yeah, you're not lying. But yeah, Garo Makai Senki. Now, to be fair, we're going to do this sort of out of order. Season 2 and Season 1 of Garo have about a movie and a half between them that introduce some characters, bring back some other characters, and we're going to do that in place of we're still going to do Season 3, but we're going to push it off a review because we're going to do the 3 Garo movies, the ones between the first and second season and the one that comes immediately after this season, because that basically gives us Koga's entire arc and his last thing for being in this show. Yeah, to start off, first episode, the villain from this episode, by the way, is the old guy from Ghost.
Oh, is it?
Yes.
Interesting.
People just love to show back up in other things when it ends up coming to Toku.
True enough.
But one thing we didn't really, I'm just going to go ahead and just go over all of this now. One thing I didn't really mention last time, and I'm just realizing how many mistakes I made. I love the fact that the suits have a timer. And the reason I love that fact is because we get so many out-of-suit fights.
There's a lot of out-of-suit fighting in Garo. And that's one of the things I did like about the show.
It's just, seeing, especially because it's mostly the actors doing the fighting themselves.
Oh, yeah.
And that's not something you really see in, any other Toku except out of, various seasons or something like that. Guy, his main actor, the guy who played Kota, has a lot of, parkour experience. We actually get to see that a few times in the show, especially during the Christmas episode. But in this one, it's just it's them.
Almost every single episode has an out-of-suit fight.
Yeah.
And it's great.
It's so good.
They're well choreographed. They're well shot. The actors can really move. They have good combat skills. It's good.
It's great.
It's really good.
But yeah, episode 1, Spark, after being promoted to the personal Makai Knight of the Senate for his vanquishing of the Apostle Horrors, which happened in one of the movies, Koga is assigned to kill Sigarain, who is the horror of this episode. Once again, horror designs are still great. I just love them. They're
hit or miss for me. Some of them are really, really good.
Yeah.
And then some of them are they just completely miss for me.
Yeah. But yeah, after he ends up destroying the horror, Koga is attacked by a mysterious figure in a red mask. And he is put a seal on him, a seal of destruction, which basically every single time he is summoning his armor, it gets closer and closer to killing him. Although they do sort of do away with that a little bit later on. But we end up getting to see Gonza and Kaoru again, and they're still around. And this season does very, very good in giving their relationship, at least Kaoru and Koga's, it does more with giving their, like, it fleshes out their relationship.
Yes.
I don't really feel like it did that in the first season, but it does it so much better here.
Well, in the first season, it was just getting started.
Yeah.
It doesn't really, nothing really comes about of it until the last episode.
Yeah.
Where he has to go rescue her.
Mm-hmm. It's just,
I'd say this show does the romance pretty well.
Yeah.
Because it's slow and it takes time to, it's like what Tiga did.
Yeah.
Tiga took its time and it slowly developed it over the course of the show. Of course, Tiga was a 50-episode show, and this is multiple shows that are each 25 episodes.
Mm-hmm.
But it's that same thing.
Yeah. It just works out a little bit better here because, first season was much more for establishing, and this one is just much more in building. And then episode 4 is years in the future. I mean, season 4 is years in the future, so that's a thing. We'll talk about that when we get to season 4. But in episode 2, we end up getting to meet who's basically our Makai priest for this season, Leo, who I don't really know if he's been in anything else, but I still like his character. He's very, very smart. He comes up with these Goryu, which are like machines that use horror-based technology, and the priests use them to actually fight. Yeah. And I love the fact this season does so good in just on world building. It gives you a lot more for how the powers work and how the worlds are and how these places that they end up going to, just, it's so different from the first season and just giving us so much more to really go off of. And I love that about season 2. It's weird. I put Garo season 1 on my top 10 Toku list. Mm-hmm. I might just substitute that for season 2. Because it just, it's everything's established. Mm-hmm. We're building on that. And I love it. Yeah, and Garo has this little...
These actor's done a couple of things.
Like what?
Not much. He only has 11 credits on IMDb.
What's that? Anything that we would know?
Anything that we would know? No, not really.
Didn't think so. But yeah, Koga has in his jacket like a little Makai dragon, which looks like a goldfish. And for some reason it's named Karu because Zaruba decided that would be funny. Mm. So he did that. That Rekka gave him. And we're going to talk about Rekka a little bit later on in the season. She was in the Red Requiem movie. And
which I haven't seen yet.
Yeah.
I haven't seen any of these movies yet, so some of these things, it's like, what?
Yeah. Now, Koga and Reo in the next episode are assigned to deliver that Makai to the Goryu cult in this next episode. And I only really mention this episode because that seal of destruction takes a little bit to come back to the story. And I'm just like, I don't know, you might want to talk about that. Okay, never mind. But yeah, I love this episode though because the Goryu, because as I said, it's based off of a horror, like ends up accidentally getting like the blood of somebody in it. Mm-hmm. And the horror just part of it just ends up taking over. It takes over a bike and it ends up becoming literally a Kamen Rider for the next part of this episode.
Kamen Rider laser.
The entire next part of this is just them on bikes fighting each other with great stunt choreography. And
were there a lot of bikes in the first season? I don't remember.
No, there weren't any.
There was some flying and running on buildings, but there was no bikes.
This is the first one where we actually get bikes. And I love this episode, not just because of the fact that we get to see, men on bikes fighting with no children's card games. But there's also just this whole thing of really seeing people work on their feet. Because Reo has to set up a trap, like, before the bike gets to this point. And I just love it because he's just, like, running through the woods and everything. And I also love just how they build, like, on the stamina of these people, the work that they really had to go to, their work ethic, and having to, just run forever at this point because he has to beat a bike to another part of the mountain, and he does and sets up the trap. And we also end up getting to see in this episode because somebody called Zero, and we end up seeing that Zero has also been hit with that seal of destruction by the masked man. Mm. And everybody's like, the full fuck is going on. But it does end up doing a little bit more building for this season. Episode 4, like I said, a lot of these early episodes are really standalone. Episode 4, by the way, guess who's in this episode? It's Kusaka from Fies.
Oh.
Yep, he's in this episode. And I love it.
Whenever he's not Kaixa,
Yeah.
we like him.
Yeah.
Every time he's Kaixa, we just want him to get his neck snapped.
Yeah. I mean, we already had that happen.
We already did have that happen.
But it's just like, I love, because the whole thing is just based around a card game and taking, you know, if you have no more chips to bet, they end up taking the thing that's the most dear to you.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, one, that's maniacal as hell, and I love it.
Mm-hmm.
And there's this whole trick where you think, like, you can tell that the special guest star is going to be the bad guy in this episode. But there's, like, the other guy who was there, I swear was also in something else. I know he was in something else. He's, you know, this chubby guy and everything. I love him. He's adorable. Weird. But I was like, it could be him, but it's been so long since I've seen this season that I just couldn't remember because it was like, it's one of these two. But it turned out to be the other guy.
Mm-hmm.
It turned out to be Kaisa. And I'm just like...
I love how the wiki says that Kohei Murakami, the actor, he is more infamously known for his role as Kaixa.
It's true.
Because everyone hates him.
Yeah. Now... Kaoru has her own backstory throughout the season. She's trying to get a book made. And I love that because it doesn't...
a struggling artist.
Yes. She is trying to get the book made, but she has everything done. She's, just drawing up the book and everything. Somebody else is going to be the writer of it. She's just going to end up being the artist. So I guess they're doing it in reverse, because usually you get the script first and then go off of that for the drawings. But they're going for the drawings first and then getting the script later.
It's Japan. They like to do things backwards.
It's true. They like to read right to left. What is this madness? But
their sentences are in reverse.
Yeah, and she episode 5 for things like that, she does end up tying into the main story arc of this. Also, the guy who's like her, I guess her agent or like her publicist or something.
Yeah. Was he in the last season?
No, but it's the dad from the Ninja.
Is it now?
Yes, it is. I was like, oh.
Several years before that, but...
I was like, oh, you're here now. Okay. Now, this season does a little bit, especially actually a lot better, in giving Zero things to do outside of Koga. Because I think we had like one other
That's
episode.
a fair point.
Yeah. We had one other episode.
Because in the first season, that was pretty much all he did.
Yeah.
Was do stuff with Koga.
But this is just like a much more preemptive to him getting his 2 seasons later on. Because in episode 6, Ray goes to visit, he goes to investigate a horror tree. And apparently the family there are like a bunch of serial killers because they keep feeding people to this tree because their son brought the seed back from the war and it's, turned evil, became a gate because of that. Also, the guy who plays the son in this episode is Raya from Ryuki. And he still died.
Some people just can't catch a break.
He really can. He was dying, and when he was Nigo in the Kamen Rider the next movies.
Oh, all right.
I'm just like, well, you just really cannot take a break in any of these things. Now Ray does end up killing the tree, but he doesn't kill the people. The people end up poisoning themselves. That's the way they've been using to kill people throughout this entire thing, and they poison themselves because what they want to be with their son and incomprehensible guilt. So they end up killing themselves.
To be fair, if you fed people to a tree for however many months.
Yes. Now, episode 7, Koga ends up having to escort this terrible Makai priest, who is just awful. And I hate this guy. I hate him so much.
Priest Rates.
He's the worst. He's haughty. He thinks he's just so much better than everybody else. But I'm not really going to focus on that part as much because at the end of Koga's part of this arc, it's Koga fighting the guy in the red mask, and he has like a dark version of the Garo armor that he could don for this episode. And they're mostly doing this to deliver these spirit beast pelts, which they use to make the Makai priest's brushes. They're doing that. That's Koga's part of this. But on the other hand, it's basically an episode between Leo and Kaoru, which honestly might just be one of my favorite things.
Really?
Because it's just them walking around, going to go see the spirit beast, so you have to track it. So we're doing like these little like weird things and everything. There's specific ways you have to track the beast. Like there's one time where they have to hold hands to walk, and there's the other part where they have to like take 4 steps around each other, so they keep having to play leapfrog sideways.
Yeah.
It's a great episode, and we end up getting to see...
It's lore building.
Yeah.
It's lore building, it's character building, and it's a nice quiet moment.
I love their dynamic. It's very different from Kaoru and Koga's for the obvious reason there's no romantic connection, but these are just people who are friends. Mm-hmm. And I love, their whole journey. There's this one little character that's following them around for some reason, like a guy in a Kyuubi mask. It's not a horror or anything. I think it's just a part of the Makai world. Mm-hmm. And he's just, following them around. He doesn't really interact with them, but he's always in the background doing something. There's this one part where we see like these spirits, like these Makai spirits, like in a parade going across them, and you see Kaoru and Leo just talking about that and about Leo himself and a little bit about themselves, just character bonding and development, and little Fox characters just down there watching the parade, jumping up and down and everything. And it's just great. And I love things like this. It's great to have that quiet moment, even though the fight is happening with Koga and the guy in the red mask and, different scenes. There's this whole thing between Leo and Kaoru when they go to see the spirit beast, and Kaoru lifts up her brush and like the spirit beast's wings go across it and I guess give it some magic power. And it's just a great thing. It felt a little bit more like a storybook in that case.
Fitting with what Kaoru's doing.
Yeah, it's great. It's such a good episode. Episode 8, Demon Sword. This is another, technically a Rei-focused episode, because in feudal Japan, a samurai dying from an illness is across the land looking for a warrior's death. He wants to go out fighting. He does not want to die by this illness. He meets a strange and unholy warrior, and after he beats him inside the man's horror-possessed sword, the sword basically ends up bringing him to the present, and he ends up having to fight Rei throughout this entire episode. And I love it because there are a couple times where he can't pull the blade out because the horror wants the blood of humans. Right. That's his whole thing. But it's a really good, once again, another Rei-focused episode. And, Rei ends up finding the samurai. The samurai gives himself over to the horror, but he just basically takes the horror's body. Yeah. And destroys the horror. The samurai has such strong willpower that the horror just couldn't take him over, so he just took his body. And he ends up turning to the horror and fights Rei in his armored form, and the samurai ends up getting killed. But Rei has just so much respect for him, and he's just like, the samurai's just like, you must be the strongest one. He's like, no, there's somebody stronger than me, and that's Koga. Okay. Episode 9. I love all of the guest characters and guest actors they have in this show. An aging actor views in dismay as a pretty boy pop singer with no acting talents hams his way through a play. And guess who this pretty boy actor is played by?
Oh, do tell.
It is played by Zangetsu.
Zangetsu? Oh, really?
Yes.
That was Zangetsu.
Just like, I love it. He's hamming the hell out of this play. And it's hilarious. It's just so, so good. Now, we're going to skip a little bit into the future because some other characters do end up coming back. Jabi comes back in this season. She was brought back to life in one of the intervening movies. Right. She ends up, because Zarba, they have the rings and other, necklaces, wrist things, whatever, what have you. End up having...
It's different for every night.
Yeah. End up having water inside of them, which will occasionally go stale. And the fire that they hold inside of them, if that happens, will just, start burning them. Because there was one, the way that they end up finding out that this is about to happen is that Koga and Leo are trained together. And then Zarba just spontaneously combusts. And they're like, why? And so Jabi ends up coming up, and I was like, yes, you brought the best girl back, because she was great in first season before she just got killed for no reason. So I guess they listened to fan outcry and brought her back. And Koga has some issues with fighting the guy in the red mask, and it's mostly because the seal of destruction on him is, causing him to become weaker slowly. But Jabi they go to the spring where the water is located, and she ends up finding the guy in the red mask and shows how much of a badass she is, because she literally fights him off by herself, and she calls Koga's horse. Just spontaneously, she calls his horse and just rides it and fights the guy and basically fights him off because he was trying to steal Zarba because he needs that for his plan to eradicate the Makai Knights and to make sure that the Makai priests end up becoming the ones that are strongest in the world. It was so great seeing Jabi back. She is just amazing.
With her fan.
Yeah. Yes, her giant fan this season. Last time she had the flag, which she still has, but now she has the fan that she can use to make a water phoenix. All right. Now, episode 14.
Water phoenix. That's an interesting...
Yes, that's exactly what it is, though. News comes to Koga from the Senate that Hyuga, an apprentice to the Kantai area's Makai Knight Tsubasa, Dan, the Knight of the Midnight Sun, is attacked by a rogue Makai Knight, Wataru Shijima, also known as Baron the Thunder Knight. It's funny that his name is Wataru because that is the main character of Kiva, and he is the werewolf from Kiva.
Oh, is he?
Yes.
Okay.
This guy shows up a lot. He was also Zanki in Hibiki. He was the bronze one who was Todoroki's mentor, who died. But
our condolences, sir.
Yes. It's mostly that in this episode, the reason why he's sort of turning dark is because the guy in the red mask attacked him just like he did all the other knights. And he's like, his darkness in his body is like slowly coming out and slowly turning him into the dark side, like they will explore later on in season 5? Whichever season Decade was in. But yeah. They end up bringing him back. Also, the guy who plays Dan, the Knight of the Midnight Sun, who has white armor that is beautiful. It's so great. That guy is also in Kiva as the brother of Kiva. Saga / Dark Kiva. That's the character who he played. Now, they do end up freeing Wataru. They end up freeing him from the darkness in his season. Also, I really wish they would do a little bit more on other weapons. This is something we'll get explored a little bit later on in other seasons. But they don't really do much with other weapons for the Makai Priest. In this case, Tsubasa, the White Knight, has a lance as his weapon.
Lance spear.
Yeah, and Zero ends up having...
It's more of a spear than a lance.
Yeah. And, Zero has his dual blades, but it's not something that we end up seeing a little bit later until this is something they explore later on in this season, by the way, of someone having a bow and arrow as their main weapon, which is something they're going to have next season when we end up getting Gokai Silver and Kamen Rider Duke as the two of the main characters in that show. Now, in episode 16, everybody...
Quick thing, Decade's actor was in Garo Goldstorm's show.
I think that was season 5.
The follow-up season.
That's season 5.
Follow-up season to the feature film.
Yeah.
No, I think it's the 4th. It's a sequel to the 3rd season.
No, it's season 5. Season 4 is equal to this season with Koga's son.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, in episode 16, we're going to skip episode 15, although that is a Wataru-focused episode. He also, because there is the Garo Retsuden later on, he also gets a focused episode in that. That was last year. And I like seeing that guy. I love seeing returning actors. It's always great to see them come back and just play their season again. But in episode 16, the Makai Knights are ordered to work together. And Rei teams up with the Makai Knight Kori against the mysterious beast that only has the vague aura of a horror, which is one of the Goryu that was mentioned earlier. The red mask guy can apparently use those. But the thing is, Rei and Kori are fighting against this thing, and they think they beat it, and they start to introduce each other, and then the other Makai Knight, Kori, gets stabbed before he can introduce himself. I actually never knew his name until just now. He gets stabbed.
Hello, my name is Glenn.
Yeah, that's literally what happened. He gets stabbed, and he gets destroyed by the Goryu. And then Rei, Zero, and Koga end up coming back. They end up fighting the thing, and they beat it. But then the guy in the red mask are coming in. They fight him, and they're basically getting overwhelmed throughout most of this episode. But the guy in the red mask ends up going into one of the demons. And I love this thing because it has like 2 faces. It's like Two-Face. but it also has face off because it can just keep going back and forth between faces. It's great. She's like Mystique. And then, just fire sonic booms and fireballs out of its face. And they end up stabbing the thing. They blow it up. The red guy ends up getting injured. Koga goes up and stabs his mask off, and it turns out this guy looks exactly like Leo.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah, so they end up thinking that it is Leo. And it's not. It's actually Leo's twin brother. Yeah. It's a whole thing.
The twin brother storyline.
But in episode 17, Red Brush, Rekka comes back in this episode. Earlier, his, Koga's, young Makai dragon or whatever he had in his coat was destroyed by the guy in the red mask. Rekka gives him another one in this episode. She seems to have a little bit of problem with women because she and Karu, when they first meet, do not like each other at all. But it's weird because she really likes Jabi. I mean, really likes her. The movie that she and Jabi are in are literally just them being lesbians. I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding.
I'm sure we'll look forward to reviewing that.
That movie will be great. I'm very excited for that one.
It's Red Requiem, is that it?
No, it's one of the ones for her and Jabi, which comes up later. I can't even remember the name of it right now. But back to this, because in
Red Requiem was her first appearance.
Yeah, that was her first appearance. It's one that was just her and Jabi that didn't really like the movie that much. Although how much I love Jabi is well known. It's just, I don't know, seeing them by themselves, they can't really drive a movie by themselves. We'll talk about that when we do our bevy of Garo movies later on. In episode 18, Herd, Koga does not believe that the guy in red mask is actually Leo. As I just said, it's his twin brother, but they don't find that out until the end of this episode. And a lot of the Makai priests in the background have been constantly trying to either say they're not going to work with this guy or they are because they're tired of always working for the Knights. That's most of them. They're in a support role. And they, before the Knights
I'm tired of playing the support role.
Yeah. Before the Knights were a thing, it was just the priests who were out there fighting against the horrors. So they believe that some of them believe that they should go back to that and no, we have these people who go out to the front lines and fight and we're going to make sure to support them. That's how, their faction is going up against each other right now. And I love that. But, of course, the guy, Vertes, from earlier was, of course, a backstabbing son of a bitch. As we can see by his attitude earlier, he ends up siding with the guy in the red mask, whose name is Sigma. I don't know why they decided Sigma and Leo when only one of those is a constellation, but okay. But yes, Vertes is being hunted by Koga throughout this entire episode, and then at the he ends up sending Koga into a cave of horrors, and Koga just proves he's a badass. And no matter how many times he summons his armor,
because he hasn't done that enough already.
Yeah. No matter how many times he summons his armor, that constantly does hurt him because of the seal of destruction on him. Yep. And all the rest of the Makai priests, Makai Knights have that on them at this point. Right. He's constantly attacked every single one, given that seal of destruction. But Vertes sends Koga into a cave of horrors, and Koga's like, no. And just destroys the cave of horrors. No. He collapses the cave in on itself. Right. And then comes up, and then the timer runs out, and he gets out of his suit, and Vertes is being killed by Sigma at this point, because Vertes thought that Sigma was weaker than him, and no. So, he deserved it. And he was giving the spirit animal pelts that I mentioned earlier for the Makai brushes. He took a whole bunch of them and was going to give it to Sigma. He does, but he still gets killed because he thinks he can just lord over the guy, but he cannot. And then Leo comes in and helps Koga when he's about to get attacked by two of the Goryu. And turns out that Leo is also a Makai Knight. Lord, the Flash Knight, which is a purple suit of beauty. But yes, Koga ends up, because Koga's really injured at this point, ends up watching the Red Masked Man and Lord fight against each other. Finds out that, Leo, first of the man, is brother, and I'm saying you couldn't tell that by the fact that they look exactly alike. Okay, but not. But, Sigma was they were brothers. They trained together when they were younger by their father, who was a Makai Knight. And Leo really wanted to just go ahead and, be more in the support role. He wanted to become a Makai priest to help his brother out because he thought that his brother was going to end up becoming the one to get the Flash Knight outfit, armor. That did not happen. The father decided to go ahead and give that to Leo, even though Sigma was a much better fighter. But the father says, he would only end up fighting for himself. This is not something that you would end up doing. So Sigma ends up running off because he's just like, I'm so much more powerful. I can do this by myself. But he turns out that he's just evil. And there's this girl, Mio, who's mute. I didn't really get that the first time around. I was sitting here like, why does she have any lines? Oh, okay.
Oh, right. You can't talk.
But yeah, so Sigma ends up coming back a little bit later on saying that he wanted to help his brother. His brother had constructed the Goryu by this point. This is something of an idea that they had when they were kids. And Sigma's like, I'm going to create idea, which is a name, not a concept. So, but Sigma's just like, I'm going to create this thing and it's going to destroy all horrors. That obviously has some drawbacks because of the fact that you have to sacrifice people to actually get it to work, and they're using the corpse of an old horror for the basis of this thing. It's called Ganon. Not Ganondorf, but Ganon.
Calamity Ganon, maybe?
Yes, that is exactly what they're using. And over the next couple of episodes, it's basically just, it's really the end game of this. Because
it's
Sigma...
game over, Return of Ganon.
Yeah. Now... Sigma gave the Makai Knights an option. They could either give up their armor and live their lives as normal people, he won't kill them, or they keep their armor and try to fight back against them, and he'll kill them. Now, there was, there's sort of an entity at the Senate that doesn't really work for or against anyone. He views humans and horrors the same. And Makai Knights and Makai Priests, of course. He doesn't really view them as basically anything. But, Sigma has been sending like these robotic people to go around his version of the Goryu, another version of the Goryu that are just, foot soldiers. He sends them out, and when they go and fight the Makai Knights at the Senate, they put a force...
Correct me if I'm wrong, sorry to cut you off, but there weren't any minions of any kind in the first one, were there?
No.
Didn't think so.
This is the first one we have really,
It was just the one monster at a time, and then eventually they got bigger and bigger.
Yeah. Now, to be fair, they're a little bit more useful this time, because once these Goryu are destroyed, they put a force field around all the knights, and the priests can't get them out, they can't summon their armor or anything. But that entity who I mentioned earlier, Koga ends up forming a contract with it to get out, and there's this train, like the Makai train that goes around, and Sigma has taken it over, and it's going to go to the moon. And once it gets there, I know. It's going to go near, like, not all the way to the moon, but once the moon is up at the height at midnight, that's when all the Makai Knights will die. So Koga forms a contract with the entity
to ride the Galaxy Express.
Yes, to go on the train. And Leo has gone up with him, or rather, he was there first. Leo fights his brother. He can't win, of course, because his brother is his brother. But Koga ends up going up. They end up having this amazing fight scene along the train. Sigma opens like this portal that blows up all the wind that was outside into the train, and they're like flying throughout the train and everything. They goes up, they fight on top of the train, and then Koga cuts off his arm, and when he does that, all these seals of destruction are removed. And this, of course, bolsters the Makai Knights and leads us after they end up crashing the train. They end up finding out that Ganon's corpse is intact. And using Ganon's corpse, or Ganon, I'm just going to call it Ganon because it's easy. Sigma regenerates his cut off hand and reveals that he has a backup plan that involves Koga and Zaraba. And as the other Makai Knights deal with the horrors manifested as a result of the open portal that the train made before it was shot down, Koga ends up being assimilated into Ganon with her attempts to get him out, failing before Sigma gets the horror away. And Rekka ends up showing up at this point. Her attempt to reach Koga fails. She brings in Kaoru and Jabi, and they soon head to Amber Rock Valley, where Sigma is beginning the ritual to bring back Ganon. So all of them end up getting there. There's this whole fight. Koga ends up getting out of the Ganon using the last page of Kaoru's picture book that she finished last time. And there's this little butterfly lady that has been going around this entire time, who's a whore who's working for Sigma. She ends up being destroyed in this episode. Sigma transports the incomplete idea, Ganon, whichever, into the true demon world to complete it. All the Makai Knights end up going in, and they witness the completion, and Sigma is basically just devoured by Ganon.
Nom.
Yes. And having absorbed, ideas, Ganon did, not the other way around this time, in the Sigma, Ganon summons an army of horrors and ushers them to Earth using the Amber Rock Valley's dig site portal. Now all the Makai priests are there, they're holding all the horrors down, and, there's, of course, a gigantic fight, and they end up cutting off one of Idea's legs. However, Idea regenerates a severed limb, disarming Rei and Wataru, before making his way to the circle of pillars that were transported to the human world. Now, Garo makes a risky move, a very risky move, by attacking the upper tower of Idea to halt its entry into the world. And Leo is there. He's fighting with everybody else, of course. He's actually down there with the knights, not with the priests. And he and his brother have made something of, they can use like a Makai priest brush to make a light arrow and shoot it at the thing. So all the Makai priests throw their brushes into the void. And it gets all down to the Makai Knights. They shoot all the arrows at them. Idea comes down. They kill Ganon. Koga uses Kaoru's brush that she used with the spirit beast earlier and destroys Ganon. And of course, they're all going to go have this lovely celebration. Of course, it doesn't happen because Sigma escaped Ganon right beforehand. He goes back to Koga's house. He lifts the house up off the ground. And he and Koga are just fighting in it. Kaoru's in there as well. Gonzo was taken outside first. And Leo is also there. Leo ends up getting onto the house as it's spinning through the air. And Koga ends up killing...
It was a ring last time, now it's a house that's spinning.
Koga ends up killing... Leo wanted to do it, but Koga was like, no, you can't do it. You can't live with yourself like this. I can, but you can't. So he ends up killing Sigma. Sigma ends up giving his brush to his brother, and then the house basically just ends up falling apart. But, Koga ends up getting Kaoru safely down to the ground, but before that he was like, I have to go because I have a contract to fulfill. And so he ends up getting taken by the entity, and that leads us to the third movie, but we're going to talk about that next time. I really like season 2. Season 2 is
it's better or worse than the first season?
It's definitely better. If only because it's just so much more, it's so much more world building. It's a lot more characters. We end up getting to see just a lot more of how this world works. And I think that's what makes it just a little bit better than season 1. Yeah, it's a really good season though. I definitely appreciate it more. Especially, doing what we do, but it's just, coming off of Garo season 1 and having watched it so soon after, because I think it was about a year between season 1 and 2 for me. But here we are, and I really appreciate this season a lot more. Let's talk about these characters, especially, going from season 1 to 2. Koga, of course. I like him a lot. He's strong, but he's not arrogant about it. So he's a little bit not like Tendo. But
thank goodness.
I still love Tendo. We all know how much I do.
I know you love Tendo. I really don't. But that's the thing that really puts him above a character like Tendo for me, is that he's not arrogant about it.
Yeah. And, building is, he's a lot more personable in season 2. He's a lot more willing to work with other people in season 2. Gorm's season 1, we see him smile a lot more in this season, mostly because of the fact that he's always around Kaoru. And, their relationships that is built throughout this. And, just seeing him just be great throughout this, but he still knows, you always see him training. He's not ever just sitting down. Always knows there's ways to improve. And I just really appreciate that about Koga. His work ethic is really good. I'm going to say Kaoru today. Let's talk about the Knights first. Zero. Zero's definitely a lot better this season. He gets, more focus episodes. Just seeing him grow as a character, being a little bit, he and Koga have a lot of the same growth. He is a lot more personable, which is understandable from the first season to the second one. He felt a lot more betrayed in the first one. His adopted family was killed. Right. And then in this season, we see him go out and just meet people and talk to people and interact with everyday people, like the sweet stand people that he ends up talking to a lot. He actually had to kill one of them because one of them ends up getting possessed by a horror, and that was a little bit hard for him. But it's good to see him just willing to work with people. And I love seeing, especially working with Koga and working with some of the other knights and the senates and the Makai priests and everything. It's great just to see him not so much have that little sarcastic still sad on the inside smile that he had from season 1.
Mm-hmm.
This one is a lot more genuine. And I just really enjoyed seeing his growth, and we'll see him a lot more in later seasons. I'm going to say this now.
Then he gets his own series.
Yeah, he gets his own series, and Koga trusts him enough to train his son. So, after Kogan's would disappear before season 4, it's great just to see them grow like that. I'm not going to talk so much about Dan and Wataru here. They were already good characters. Dan's a little bit uptight. Wataru is a little bit more laid back. And that's basically them. They don't really grow as much as characters in this. Jabi is still great. Rekka has some acting issues. But she's not terrible, but we've
seen worse.
There's some definite growth. Yeah, we definitely have seen worse.
We've definitely seen worse.
Aka Ninja. But it's still great to just see them, come back in this season. Kaoru gets a little bit better. I didn't really like her as much as season 1, but I like her a lot more here. She's a little bit more down to earth. She's, seen a lot more of the world than she ever wanted to. But seen
a lot more of other worlds than she ever wanted to.
But she has a goal, and that's to put out her book, and she does at the end of this. And I love seeing that. It's great just to have growth for characters, and having multiple seasons really does help in that, because we get that in Sentai and Rider, but it's great to also just have multiple seasons of the same characters so we can really see them grow as people. Garo season 2 is a definite step up. I really like this show a lot better than season 1. It's a stronger cast, stronger acting chops in this one, much more of a world to be built, and just getting into that world is just...
It's the best kind of sequel.
Yeah.
One that takes the ideas of the original and then uses that as a jumping off point to introduce new characters and go more in depth.
And, the suit fights are still great. The outer suit fights are still great. We're going to talk about less of those in season 3, but here we are. But, yeah, season 2, Makai Senki is a definite, just watch it. Go watch season 1, of course, because you need it. But, yeah, it's great to just come into season 2 for this. Next time, we'll be reviewing an Ultraman again. It feels like it's been a while.
It has.
Yeah.
It feels like it at any rate.
Especially because between now and
because I missed Bokenger due to school and whatnot. I missed Kabuto as well.
Yeah.
Other things.
But next time, we'll be doing Ultraman. Ultraman Orb.
I'm really excited to talk about this one.
I am too.
I haven't started watching it yet. As of recording this, I haven't started watching it yet. But a lot of people have been saying this is one of their favorites.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to seeing this one.
I am too. We're also going to be doing Orb Origins, but that is going to be
That's going to be later.
After we do the movies for Garo.
For Garo.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm excited, though. It's going to be Orb for a little bit, and of course, we will end up doing Geed, because Geed is done. So, yes. And then we'll see, because, we have a lot of filler things for those. After that, we have the Space Sheriffs to do.
We have Space Sheriffs. We have Max. Ryukendo.
Max, maybe. We're probably going to do it, yeah.
We will at some point.
But yeah, let us know what you thought of the second season of Garo in the comments below.
Please do.
Yes, and go to Facebook, Twitter, just put it all out there. Patreon.
We would be remiss. It is the end of the month. Spencer Kane, David, and Teamer are sponsors. The show would not be possible without you, so thank you very much.
It's great.
And thank you to all of our Patreon supporters.
Yeah, it's been a great, just time. And yeah, that's basically this episode. Join us for 52. 52. That's an entire year's worth of... No, it isn't. Decorator will screw that number up. I also realized this the other day. We're going to be doing W Gaiman X8 month.
Are we now?
Yes.
Guy month I knew about. W, that's also understandable because there's a lot of movies, but X8 month. Oh.
X8 has a lot of movies coming out.
X8 does have a lot of movies.
So by the time that we end up getting to that, all of them will be out, and we'll be doing those too. But yeah. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Bye!
Bye.